Okay, so doing a quick update on the store and kind of what's going on in general. Done a video before talking about this, and then it was kind of long and wordy, so I just didn't put it up. And then I did another one, and I don't even know what happened to it. I think it got deleted by accident. So just doing one now to kind of update everything. First, the I'll talk about where we are and then why I chose to go with a pottery store. First thing is, the store shelves are finally done. That has been one of the biggest things. I was sore. My hands and fingers were sore for probably 2 days straight of just going through and putting those together. They were easy to put together, but it was just very tedious. So that part is done completely. There might be a few other areas that we might put some shelving in, but right now I think we're good. The other part is the signs. We have all the signs up with the exception of one. Noel has to work on that sign, and that's going to be a how-to sign. A lot of people here in Tacoma may not be familiar with painting pottery as much as they are with making the pottery. So those are two different things. But just basically telling people, wash your hands first, because if you have any oils or anything on your hands, that's going to affect the paint and all that stuff. So just a sign that shows how to's, all of that type of stuff. Got all the licensing and things like that done and out of the way, which is great. I went through, made sure that I got the state business license, city business license done, got a reseller's permit. Also, the LLC was the first thing that I did. That's all been taken care of and completed. Now he's getting the insurance ready. We should be good to go on September the 5th or 3rd. September 3rd, I believe. I have to see. There's so many dates in my head because we're doing so many different things. But first part of next month is when we officially open. We're going to have Zeta's birthday party there at the shop. So it's just going to be people that we know there at the shop in the next couple of days. So that's going to be kind of our first event. Um, the other things are getting the paint and the different pieces that people are going to be able to actually paint. So we have now with the reseller's permit, we can go and get a lot of that stuff. It's still got to be approved, so that should be in the next few days. But we're going to put all that in. So for the next 2 weeks, we pretty much have a lot of time stocking the shelves with some paint and with a lot of the bisqueware, stuff like that. That stuff doesn't take very long to do, so we should be good to go there. Two things that were going to be a big concern that are not a concern. First is the kiln. We're going to put a kiln inside of the retail unit to fire up and to do all of our stuff. One of the things I noticed, obviously, are the hardwood floors. The up ahead, there's wooden beams. There's just wood everywhere. This building's over 100 years old. So that was a little bit of an issue for me. There's ways to fix it so the floor is not much of a problem. There's ways you can actually outfit the walls. That's not a problem, but it's just added headache. And then there was questions on insurance if we were to do that. The other big part of the kiln issue is this is something that reaches a couple of thousand degrees when it fires, and it's firing for a long period of time, about 8 hours or so. So it's a very intense heat for that period of time. Right up ahead or up above are a set of sprinklers. We didn't notice those sprinklers until one day I was looking at the footpath of where we're going, or the footprint of where we're going to put the kiln, and right up ahead is a actual sprinkler head. And no matter where you move it in the store, you're going to face a sprinkler head. There's two lines that run up, and so that's a problem. And I mentioned that to the property manager of Freight House Square, and they said, "Yeah, I didn't even think about that." They said it's a good idea that we don't put it on site. So we're not going to have a kiln actually on site. It just makes a lot better sense not to have it there at all, because if one sprinkler head goes off, this is what I told Noel, they all go off. It's just one of those types of things. It's a big building, a lot of other vendors. It would be horrible for that to happen just because the kiln is doing what it's supposed to do. But that intense heat, if you don't have the right type of sprinkler head up there, if it's on a different rating, because there's a whole scale color code rating for sprinkler heads. If it's on the lowest, most sensitive rating, it's going to go off, and I think that it probably is. Places that have kilns like schools and things like that have sprinkler systems, a lot of times they have a higher rating, meaning that the temperature has to get a certain degree before that sprinkler head pops off for certain conditions. And so that's not going to be the case here, so there's no point in having a kiln there. So that and other things just make it not really worth it. The other big part was a sink. Now, right next door to the facility is a catering area that's not really used a lot, only when there's catering, and there's a sink there. So we wanted to sink inside the unit. They would have to go through, put some piping in, do a lot of different things, which is fine. They still may do that. But it is just as easy for me to go over there, wash brushes out in a collective, and get everything clean in one go and then bring it back, as opposed to them doing all the work. Now, they still may put a sink in. We still may require that later on down the line. But right now, it's literally less than 5 feet away, if that. And it's not that hard. People can easily go over there, wash their hands. We've talked to the management, and they said that that's great if that's something that you guys want to do. So they're pretty flexible in terms of that. As long as that is something that's available to us, not a problem. I think that's going to be the route that we go. Makes things a whole lot easier. I told Noel I like to go through things a lot easier than to go through a bunch of hoops. When you're starting a business, you have to basically, if you have a plan, create 3 or 4 or 5 more other plans along with it, because things aren't going to go the way that you anticipated. And so I try to find the easiest route as opposed to building the posh. One of the big problems that you see here and other places are people who may have been a worker in a business, or they may have owned their own business or what have you. They do too much too soon, and then you end up with poor results because you're always trying to chase after a certain price point in order to fix everything. I told them, well, we don't want to do that, right? We want to make it as reasonable as possible. So that's exactly what we're doing. With that said, one of the questions that someone asked, and I can't remember who it was why go into pottery. Noel mentioned the story about it was going to be an eatery, but there's so much red tape. You have a lot of things that Tacoma is not really used to. They're not really used to the food truck scene. They're getting more used and adapted to that. They're not used to the whole eating outside. If you have a business and there's drinks outside, normally they want you to have a fence around it and all of that stuff. But with McMenamins coming in and others, that's something that the city is trying to change, because they want to use outdoor space for drinking and things like that, and you don't have to put up all this railing and fences and all this other stuff that's really not needed. The other thing is rooftop bars are really not something that you see here because there's ordinances against that. Now the city's trying to address it, but I bring all this up because Tacoma is growing very, very fast. Like very, very fast. Not like Seattle fast, where it's just population and buildings. Tacoma's growing fast in terms of just new everything. Everything is just springing up. And the city never had to deal with that. They never had to deal with having food pods. In fact, Seattle doesn't even have food pods. Food pods are basically a whole bank of food trucks that sit around a particular area, typically all day, and people come up and eat from them. You see them in Portland. They have a lot of them. Seattle doesn't really have any of them. You find food trucks in various places, but not in a big collective. Tacoma just now has one with Chowtown. And so that is something that is new. It's a nuance. The whole, food carts and things like that, that's new for Tacoma. So because it's new, they don't have a lot of ordinances, or they have heavy-handed rules in place. And so that kind of pushed that whole concept out for now. If I were to go back into that, it would probably involve the university and stuff like that. Potentially there's something that's come up and that looks very attractive, but right now my hands are fully into this is more of a business that's going to be down Noelle's line, to be honest with you. She has done pottery for years. We've done pottery together, but she's more familiar with it. This is more something that I'm going to nurture, and then Noelle hopefully will be able to take off with it and I can go do something else. But that's kind of where we are right now with that. Why create a pottery business? I think because it's something we've been wanting to do for a long, long time. There's notes that I've had from back in 2016 that pulled up a sketch of this. There's going to be three different options in terms of a business that was going to be created. Pottery was number two, and it just made very sense. So after the first part didn't work, the eatery type deal, pottery was number two. Number three would have required much more money and much more investment and capital and things like that. So that one's going to wait. First one was a lot of red tape. Pottery was a lot more easier and something that Noelle can easily do. And that I have a little bit of, I mean, I can paint some stuff. It's not going to be the prettiest, but I could do some stuff. As far as the techniques and stuff like that, I understand that. So that is the reason why it just made a lot of sense. We've talked about it for a long time. Downtown doesn't really have a lot of that. In fact, Tacoma doesn't have. If you look up pottery studios, in Seattle, they're everywhere. In Tacoma, not so much. It's kind of more of a newer type of thing. You may find some places that have pottery classes, like where you can go sit down at a wheel and you can mold and create it. But as far as actually painting the pottery and not getting yourself that dirty, you don't have a lot of that. So it was filling a void. Downtown's growing. It fills a void. So that's why we wanted to do it. And where we are, Freight House Square, it's already somewhat of a mall for mom and pop places. And you have a lot of traffic going throughout that building all the time. So it made sense. The reason of creating a business is just being tired of working for someone else. I mean, asking for permission to take off, or you don't know if you're going to be promoted or not, or dealing with the whole rat race of someone controlling your destiny is something that has always bothered me. I've worked for companies where I've been downsized, laid off, and you're not really given a whole lot of warning of it or why it takes place, or you have a lot of situations where favoritism is being on full display. Everyone can talk about stories about stuff like that, where people who really and truly aren't about much get promoted, or they get preferential treatment just because they know someone. And so that gets old very quick. I'd rather be judged based on my merits, not based on anything else. And one of the best ways for me to do that is obviously have my own business. I can set my own hours, my own time frame, all of that. A lot more riskier, by far. A lot more risk involved, but I'm more in control of what's going on. And so that's kind of been the long-term goal anyway. Where do I go from here? Well, after getting this up and going, and it seems good, then I am looking to go into a couple of different directions in terms of myself. Noelle would pretty much run this full time at that point, and I would go a completely different direction. I don't have a timeline on that because you never really know how successful this particular business will be or not. Excuse me. I hope that it will be successful. There's a lot of things we're trying to do. We're trying to work with other entities as well, because they have been really, really helpful. Getting involved in the arts community, getting involved in the city, that type of thing. It's really, really important. So that is what we're hoping to do, is just really grow on that, do a lot of advertising, and just really provide a great service. I think that's the other thing. Customer service is key. You have a lot of people who get into business and they take their customers for granted. It's always, to me, I always want to say thank you for doing business with us or what have you. I've been places where you don't even get that. I mean, you've spent a bunch of money and you don't even get a thank you. You know what I mean? You can go anywhere. So I want to make sure that those are things that we focus on, and just have someone create something in their own space and be an artist, whether they feel like they are or not. So that's kind of the whole goal of this. As I said, as things start to build up a little bit more, probably myself look into other avenues that are different from this. I still will be going to Haiti and doing stuff like that. As you guys know, I go to Haiti to volunteer time, do different things. Still going to do that. I have to coordinate with Noelle so that she's able to actually manage things here while I'm gone. But that's something I still definitely will be doing. Love the country of Haiti, love the people of Haiti, love the food. I mean, the food. I mean, if you've never had Haitian food, you're really missing out. But anyway, that's way off topic. But still going to be doing stuff like that. That's not going to change. But just having a lot more flexibility now in terms of doing everything on my own. Nowadays, videos are going to probably be more so in the studio, like Noel said, potentially. You might have some from here if it's, at nighttime or what have you. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the case. Just wanted to give you guys kind of an update as to where we are with the business, why we actually chose pottery a little bit more in detail, and what I'm going to be doing in the future. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.